were thinking they're going to sit today, but we've made this arrangement because this is our first teaching and learning style briefing, and we hope that you find it interesting and useful. Want to run them at the moment at the end of each month, and we'll rotate the days because a number of people have already said I'm on duty on that day. Rachel, who's running the first one, is also going to email out the PowerPoint, and obviously we'll have the film at some point. We're looking at a learning and teaching group blog. We can sort of archive all these sorts of things. It's really about members of staff within the school sharing all excellent practice, which we know goes on throughout the school, so we can disseminate that out school-wide. It's about sort of ideas that hopefully people can pick up and quickly start trying. Some of the things you might think you're already doing that, but it might be it's a different way of using the sorts of ideas that you already sort of currently have. Okay, so we're going to hand over to Rachel, a literacy focus, and she's going to take us through our first teaching and learning presentation. Should we give her a clap?
Okay, so yeah, as they're part of the learning and teaching group, they have asked me just to share a few things that I do. Being technology, we don't have as much written work as other areas, so the one thing I've tried to focus on is all the key terminology that our students need to know. So all the terminology they need to know for all the words for design and all the tools they need to know. So my sort of tricks and things that I do is all based on the keywords. So the first thing that I have got is in my room, I've got a really big display of all the graphics keywords and what their meanings are underneath, because a lot of the students can analyse a product, so they can talk about something, but they don't actually use the main terminology we need in order for them to get a good mark, especially when they get to GCSE. So I have this display up, it's nice and big, very bold, it's in the middle of my room, it's quite high up, all the students can see it, and I make a point of trying to refer to it every lesson. So if any students don't know the meaning of a word or they don't know how to spell it, I get them to refer to that first before they ask me. I'm trying to make them a bit more independent, rather than keep coming to me, Miss, how do I spell this, what does that mean? I try to get them to refer to that all the time, because if there's so many of them needing to know things, I can't deal with it all, so referring to that is quite a handy thing for them to have. And if there's, for whatever reason, I've missed one, then obviously I can give them that information and then get it put onto the display after. But the students use this all the time, and it's quite a handy thing to have on my display. Being technology, as well as sort of the key words they need to know, there's a lot of tools that they need to know the names for and what they're used for. They're quite good at memorising a tool's name and its use. They're not very good at actually being able to identify what the tool looks like. So they can tell me what a coping saw does, but if I actually hold one up, nobody can really tell me what the actual word is. So I've put a bit more of a visual display up with the different actual pictures of the tool, so hopefully it will link that in with them. So if they ever were in an exam and they had the picture, hopefully they would remember this display and it would relink the meaning and the description of what the tool does together. Another thing with the keywords that I have tried is we do have the odd written tasks in technology, things like design briefs, analysing a product, evaluations, and this works particularly well with the low-level boys. Is I try to give them a little bit of a challenge, so when they do a written task, try and say to them, see who get the most keywords in their piece of work. At the end, we go through and highlight or underline or circle each of the words, as long as they're used properly. I don't want to just put them in willy-nilly. And then the person that's got the most in their piece of work will get a merit. And this works quite well with low-level boys, because they might only have 2 or 3. Somebody sat next to them or somebody further might have 20, and they're a bit like miffed because they didn't get the merit. So next lesson they tend to say, oh, if we're doing a written task, can we do that competition so that they can try and get a merit? And they tend to use the display that I've got up. So they'll keep turning around looking at the display, see which words they can include. And even though they keep looking at the display, they're sort of remembering and learning the words as they're going along. So it tends to work quite well. And then this one, you probably do it as well, but I do this with most of my classes, is being technology. Some of my lessons are very practical based, so there's no literacy element at all. So I try to pack up maybe 5-10 minutes early, and we play a game of hangman. But it's all to do with the key terminology of my subject. So they can't just put any word on the board as the hangman. It has to be a key word that either they've learnt in that lesson, or it could be one that they've just picked off of the display board. And then obviously they go through, play the hangman, but the whole point of it is whoever guesses the word has to be able to give me the description of what it means. So obviously if it gets to the point where a T's missing, someone will be able to tell me what the word is, but I don't want them to just be able to read it off the board. They have to be able to explain what the meaning is. And sometimes, some students will pick a word that we maybe have never covered before, and it then enables me to discuss it with them, to bring up what it means, and then hopefully next lesson or next time we do a written piece of work, they'll actually be able to include that into their work. This again works well for spelling. So I try to give higher level students a more difficult word, or they automatically pick a difficult word. But for the low level boys in particular, if you give them quite a simple word, or a word you know they spell wrong quite often, when they're stood up there trying to do the hangman and people are shouting out the letters, gets them to rethink about the spelling and hopefully get it correct when they've done that. So again, that works really well, and this works particularly well. I do it with my year 8s, and my year 8 boys in particular. Every lesson they come in, Miss, can we finish 5 minutes early and do that hangman? And I say to them, you can do hangman as long as it's related to the subject, and they're more than happy, and they do that pretty much every lesson because they want to. But they change the words around, so they can't keep using the same ones, and they use the display board all the time to pick different words, which works really well. With Key Stage 4, I did struggle a little bit because being controlled assessment, I can't really have as much input with spelling and keywords and correcting their work because the AQA specification says we can't. So I actually had a bit of a discussion with my Year 10 students about different things that they thought we could do in order to make their literacy and their understanding a bit better. And 3 of them came up with these things. So Nicole said the idea of sticking a little post-it note on their heads, like you can do it with celebrity names, which they suggested doing it with either the key word and the person has to say the meaning, or they could actually have the meaning on their head and the person would say the key word and they have to then give the description. Matt said just doing a normal spelling test, so maybe once a week or every 2 weeks, give them 10, 15 keywords, get them to do a spelling test on it so they can practice, and if there's any words that they obviously do get wrong, they know they need to keep practicing those words and that it's not wrong in their coursework. And then Jack suggested a quick fire round, so throw a ball or something nice and soft and just a quick fire round of throw it to a student, say right, spell and give them a word, or give them a key word and they have to give the meaning, or you can give the meaning and they have to give the key word. So it's very versatile and there's lots of different ideas of what you can do. So mine is basically keywords because obviously technology is more of that, but for me these ideas tend to be working quite well, and I haven't had to create any extra resources to do them. I can quickly just sort of think them off the top of my head, or the kids will say to me, can we do this? And I can just get it done and it takes 5 minutes. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Rachel. I hope that people have got some things from that. I'm aware of time. Rachel will email out PowerPoint, and I'll also email out, you can give some feedback about our first teaching learning briefing. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for coming this morning. Give Rachel one more clap, please.